So, fats. We see them on the packages, and there's so many different types. We see saturated fats, we see unsaturated fats, and we see polysaturated, monosaturated, and trans fat. What does all that mean? Well, let's kind of just dive into each one, and we'll go from there. So, saturated fats, those are the solid fats, mostly what you find in cheese, butter, ice cream, and they come from animals. The unsaturated fats you will find from animals and plants. And they're kind of into two subtypes, monosaturated and unsaturated fats. So these are basically the good fats. The monosaturated fats come from seeds or nuts, such as your avocado, your olive oil, peanut oil, canola oil. And in the right amounts, they actually do lower the cholesterol, your total cholesterol, and your LD cholesterol, which is what we kind of say is our bad cholesterol that can lead to the heart attacks, the clogging of the arteries, things like that. The polysaturated fats, those come from your vegetables, your some seeds still, and like corn, sunflower, soybeans. And they can also help lower cholesterol if you use them in place of the saturated fats. That's where you'll find the omega-3 fatty acids. So if anyone shops through the grocery aisle and goes through the pharmacy department, you'll probably see omega-3 fish oil pills that you can take. If you're not a big fish eater, don't live on the coast, can't get fresh fish, or just don't like fish like me, you can get that source from there as well. You will find them in salmon, mackerel, herring, trout, and those help to actually lower the triglycerides. And then the last thing you'll usually see on a package is a trans fat. Those are what we really say is the bad fat. Those are what raise the cholesterol, and typically we don't see a lot of products that have it in there. I think a lot of restaurants, don't quote me, but have really gone away from using trans fat just because of how unhealthy they can be. So basically the takeaway is to just educate yourself at the grocery store. Next time you're in the grocery store, pick up the tub of butter and pick up the olive oil and really look at the types of fats that it's in and compare it. They might have the total fat might be exactly the same, but then dive in deeper and look to see, well, which one is a little bit more healthy. And then it's just making better choices. And remember that not all fats are bad. Simply put, when you're looking at the label, avoid trans fat. When you're picking oils, pay attention to the monosaturated fats. The more liquid the fat is, the healthier it's going to be. So in general, when you're looking at those packages, just basically the lower the saturated fat and the higher the monosaturated fat content, the healthier the fat's going to be. So next we'll talk about vacations. It's summer season, people are traveling. I think one of the most important things is to set your expectations before you leave. And tell someone you're traveling with. I think Dr. Lindsay had an awesome point on the last Nudist Mentality when she said, when you write it out or you say it out loud to someone, you're putting it out into the world. And that, my friend, is very powerful. If you don't believe me, just try it on your next trip. I guarantee you the person with you is going to be like, hey, didn't you say you weren't going to do that? And it just might give you the chance to be like, oh, hey, maybe I'll do this instead. So this is something to kind of consider. If you're traveling alone, write it out. Even putting it on a piece of paper, you're just holding yourself accountable. Or if you've got a gym buddy or a friend, you can text and be like, hey, I know Christine and I do that back and forth. I'm getting ready to go on a trip. She's on a trip. We text back and forth our exercise plans so that we know we're holding each other accountable. So that's another trick if you're traveling alone. I think when you look at nutrition, you have to be realistic. And what type of trip are you going on? If you want to be on that trip, go for it. Absolutely. Bring your scale, do that. People that travel all the time for work, that's something that they're probably going to do. But if you're on a family trip or you're on a trip with friends, that might not be your goal at the time. So just taking little changes like, okay, well, drinks or dessert today. I'll pick one. Breakfast. If you're at a hotel, you can always find, there's usually always Greek yogurt. There's usually always egg whites. So you can start your day off with something lean. When you're picking snacks, just look for the lean protein. Just going into the gas station if you're traveling by car and just really flipping over the packages and looking, you're guaranteed you're going to find something, but don't fall into the trap of the protein-packed snack, because I guarantee you if you flip it over, there's going to be more fat in it than protein. So the more you know. Another tip that I used on my last trip in November was one that Coach Chelsea had said when she was traveling a lot with her job. was that when she got on the plane, she didn't eat. I mean, when you're going for a 4-hour drive or a 4-hour flight or whatever, you will survive 4 hours without eating. It just prevents the mindless eating. I know it worked for me, and my monsters weren't about to give me any treats when we traveled in November. So that's just another option, is that you can just wait until you get there to eat. Plus, you're not packing the snacks that probably 2 or 3 hours into the drive, you're going to be like, oh, sounds good, because you don't have it. The best advice, though, that I heard from a WAG podcast, actually Adi, the founder of WAG, said it was, do better than you did on last trip. So that's awesome. I've done that every trip I've taken since I've been with Nude Nation, and the one that I'm about to go on. Everyone knows I'm a Coke Zero fan, so this trip, and my kids know it and my husband know it, if there's no Coke Zero at the restaurant, it's water for me. I didn't always start there. It used to be any diet soda was fine, but this trip, that's what I'm going to do. And quite honestly, Coke Zero is not on fountain in every restaurant, so I'll probably be drinking a lot of water. So actually beneficial for me that way anyway. Last topic is mindset, which is my absolute favorite. I think the mindset is where it's at with anything in life. When you look at nutrition, you really have to look at it as a practice. It is not, there's no end point. You don't get to the end and then nutrition's over. You go back to how you were. No, if you want to make it sustainable, then you're always going to be learning. When you notice that you're off track, just start over. It does not mean you're back at square one. You throw your hands up and forget it. You're just back. Just go back. Just like Coach Chelsea says, you had one bad meal? Okay, well, what are we going to do for snack next time? Just do better. And then for those that have been tracking for a while, I think it's easy to just kind of get very lax in it. So when you take it back a notch and say, okay, well, what did I do in the beginning? Remember, when you're a beginner with anything, when you're learning, you want to know everything about it, the ins and outs and how it works. If you take that back, even as there's a bug, sorry. Even as someone that's been doing it for a while, then you might even learn something a little bit new, or you might be like, ooh, hey, I was not doing that correctly. And so then you can go from there and just dial it in a little tighter. Then I think you need to look at what season of life you are in and set your expectations. Are you doing things that align with your goals? If you're not, ask yourself why. What are you going to do to fix it? Or maybe your goals are changing, which is fine. Then change your goals and change the route. Then the other tip, lower your expectations. I know that sounds crazy, because as a child I was always told, have a high, expect the best, get the best. Set the bar high, which I think is good in some points, but I think with nutrition, lower your expectations. That's how you see the results. The whole point of aiming low is just to build trust with yourself, build that confidence. And that's what builds the momentum, those little actions that you take day in and day out. That, my friend, is what motivation is. It's not listening to me or watching a podcast or seeing some athlete do something great. It's building up those actions and those habits that you do so you feel it. And that's what keeps you going, and that's what motivates you. So it's really in those actions, in that 1% better each day, that leads to big results. And then let's face it, we're all human. No one's perfect, and those failures, those whoops moments are going to happen, and that's fine. But you just have to have grace with yourself. Realize you're not perfect, and just pick up where you left off. It's all in how you really talk to yourself. Don't let life get in the way and be like, oh, well, I had a bad day, or oh, well, the kid's got to do this, and I don't have time. There's always going to be a sense of urgency, something that's going to come up, and you're naturally going to want to seek and go back to what was comfortable. But you have to go against that. And the easiest way to go against that is just to recognize it's happening. Once you sit back and you recognize it's happening, say, okay, pause, what's really going on here? And it's in that reflection where you really do learn, and then you will do better next time. That's how you become your best self. And that, my friend, is where you find excellence. And so I guess I will wind it up, because I don't see anybody who has any questions. I know there are a couple open coaching spots if anyone's interested. So if you are sitting on the fence thinking, I really just need that little extra accountability, or I want to learn some more about macros, we are all willing to help you. And after all, who's stopping you? Well, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and we will talk at you later. Bye-bye.